I'll start with you. You talked about the existential pace layer, the slow one, right? And it has got to do with the culture as well. So if you want to make it move a little bit faster, what options do we have, or should we even bother to try?
The first one is, so I've been in companies where they basically said, okay, we're very ambitious. We're going to make these big plans. And then you find out that actually you don't want to take any risk. So I think ultimately the existential layer is about what's your real ambition and what are you willing to do for it? What are you willing to give up for it? How do you link that back to what you're really good at? So what are you, have a strong sense of your core capabilities, have a strong sense of your identity. So how do you see each other in the organization? How does the ecosystem look at you? What do they expect from you? And then what are the moral values? How, and with moral values, I don't mean, fraud or anything. I mean, what do you really stand for? Because I'll give you an example. OpenAI started out as a not-for-profit organization countervailing the big tech companies in the race for AI. And then one day they see the big money and they turn around and everything changes. I think that doesn't inspire me as having great moral values. Moral values is really what I deeply believe I stand for. And a lot of it is unspoken. It's unspoken because people in the back of their head don't want to make these compromises or don't want to let go of things. And I think that's the honesty you need as an organization and as a leader and as a leadership team. It's not just Rak, it's you as well. It's the leadership team first and foremost. You have to agree on these things and you have to look each other in the eye and ask the question, do you really feel it? Do you mean it? Are you behind it? And don't just say yes if you feel no, then speak up. And these conversations don't happen. And there's no time for it because we're all working on the operational stuff. And there should be a lot of time for this. There should be these deep and honest conversations among the leadership and then with the rest of the organization about the organization we want to be.
Great, thank you.
And I'm not saying 1 billion in 10 years or something like that. If you create great value, you'll find many ways to monetize it, and you will be successful.
I will have a follow-up question on that, but I will change pace a little bit. Vishal, I will come to the fast-paced world of e-commerce, right? What do you think is the biggest operational or cultural challenge in achieving seamless omni-channel transformation?
And different categories are required for different channel. So when people are coming onto the mobile, they want to see different products. If they're coming onto the marketplace, then they want to see the different product. So the biggest challenge with the merchandising team or other teams is identifying this perfect category for each channel. Because what you can sell onto the marketplace, you can't sell onto the online thing. And what you can sell onto the online, you can't sell into the store. So just let me elaborate this thing. When people are coming into the in-store, they want to experience the product. So even if you're giving the high value product, it is easy to sell in store. But same thing if you're trying to put onto the marketplace, then another challenge, because on marketplace, people are coming for the value. So they don't want to go onto the costly products. And on online, it is more onto the lead generation sort of, because everything you are not selling online. As we were discussing earlier also, even the in-store sales is always inspired from the online thing. And then the other challenge which I see with the Omni channel is because each channel is owned by different business unit. Each unit has their own targets and everyone fight for their target. They don't think in a whole ecosystem, as you said.
By definition, if you want to serve your customer well, you have to be omni-channel, but you have to find out what channel for what purpose, under what, you said, okay, some people come for the lowest price, other people come for the experience. The trick is to understand it, as I said earlier, and then work your way backwards. So, and if the structure precludes that because everybody's optimizing their own little piece, here's the secret of complex systems. If you optimize the parts, the whole is never optimized. You optimize each part. You can optimize your web channel. You can optimize your store. I guarantee you the whole will not be optimized. But if you understand the flow and you understand customer needs and you fine-tune this, then you'll get there. Because then you operate from the whole, you operate from the ecosystem.
So I'll just give you the one example quickly. Like in one apparel company in India, they started putting their product. They thought like start putting products onto the quick commerce. So what they thought, like on quick commerce, mostly people will buy innerwears, and they started selling innerwears onto quick commerce, and it was biggest fail. They were not able to sell it. Then finally they figured out, and then they start selling the white shirts. And that was the biggest hit because customers were more looking for the white shirts. For example, you're visiting some place, you forget white shirts, you're quickly ordering it. So I think that behavior change, like based onto the channel and identifying a proper category is the biggest thing. And again, it's you try something, you may fail, then again try it. So that's the thing.
Yeah, if I may ask a follow-up question there. So, you have a strength in the leadership programs, right? That's where you shine, and your book is about leadership. Now, if you are to combine, or if you are to look at the ecosystem thought process and the competition thought process, what does it say about leadership at that point in time? Or what are some of the things you think can be corrected to make that ecosystem thought into play?
I think I'll go with the Zoran thought. It's thinking about the customer, not thinking about like what is my target or my department target, what is the incentive I am going to get. So thinking like end of the day, we are serving to the customer. It's the business is all about the customer, and where the leadership role is coming, like they have to think and redesign this, whether it's an incentive program or process or practices, and going into the top level rather than just having, okay, what individuals are selling or what departments are selling, but something like needs to be done onto the ecosystem level.
Thank you. Like if I may, Arun says the future belongs to the organizations that generate abundance within a platform model. You are at the forefront of AI.
By the way, I didn't say generate, that orchestrate.
Orchestrate. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. What would be your thoughts around how we can orchestrate, from an IT services company's perspective, this platforms or ecosystems?
So I think the way I look at it is AI in its bull case is inherently going to be abundance creation. What I mean is if we get the security right, the guardrails right, AI can actually drive supercharged abundance in many walks of life. They talk about scientific discoveries. Some of these scientific discoveries are based on number of people working on some of those inventions and discoveries and so on. If you create a good AI infrastructure and allow the AI process to drive it forward, I think the amount of discoveries, scientific discoveries that can happen based on the knowledge that we have can grow manyfold. Just one example on the protein structures, right? The AlphaFold algorithm. That itself by being open sourced, allowing every protein structure to be mapped, allows for huge number of new combinations to be created, and hence creates that abundance in terms of healthcare, understanding human body, longevity, curing genetic, disorders, and so on and so forth. Means that we have to also change our mindset from it being a scarcity part, right? Where, I cannot do my typical time and material revenue model. I will have to charge based on headcount, and this is going to come in the way. I think we have to look at this as what is the abundance aspect of AI, which is what is it doing to the clients in terms of their growth and their business model changes, and how can we contribute to that? As an example, if you talked about cars and you talked about electric vehicles, there are a lot of new things to be built in terms of features and software and so on to create this. And then to take it to self-driving vehicles, maybe vertical taxis, and so on and so forth. If you can help drive that innovation in a much faster manner as a services company, if we can create those products, engineering features, and so on in a faster manner, the time to market gets crunched, more cars get launched, new transportation avenues come up. That's the abundance model, right? Why would you not share in that value being created rather than looking at whether it's a headcount issue and so on? So I think my view is, especially for companies like us, which are at the forefront of defining this change, we are not held back by legacy. Helping drive this change through our own service delivery model and using AI to create that abundance for our clients will help us in return.
Thank you. Audience, if you have any questions, please be ready. I know we are running a little bit behind on schedule, but we'll get a few minutes at the end of the session, okay? So, Jeroen, just coming back to you, we are seeing AI kind of commoditize knowledge here, right? How should businesses kind of balance investing in some of these tools versus fostering truly novel, human-driven innovation in their R&D?
I think you have to identify where you apply it. Do you apply it on the fast layer? Easy. There's always stuff you can do better. AI helps you do it better, helps you automate. You should do it, period. But everybody will do it. So you won't get a competitive advantage there. Strategic layer is different. So I'll give you a short story. My son is running a scale-up, and they develop software for, it's a SaaS solution for small and medium-sized enterprise, among them restaurants. So they get very detailed transaction data from each of these restaurants. So he basically pulled out 3 years of data every day. What's your revenue? How many reservations did you? Blah, blah, blah. So he split the data in two randomly, and then he said, Claude Code, can you please generate an algorithm to predict for next week what the occupation of the restaurant will be? And it was okay. Then he said, can you add the daily weather in? Because weather influences occupancy. Then he asked, well, for those restaurants, if there are events in the town, can you factor that in? And he said, here's my last question. If I give you the current reservation for the next 5 days, can you update the algorithm? And then he got the algorithm to about 92% prediction. That's a big deal for a restaurant. And he said, can you now generate a website for my customers to play with this on their data? And then he asked me, how long did you think it took me? I said, well, sounds like a 6-week kind of exercise. Wrong. 6 hours. So next day, He gives it to his customers, as each of them, 10 customers, as each of them, do you like it or don't you like it? All said we liked it. Then it goes to R&D, and this is not production code, obviously. But what it is an amazing experiment in one day. And if customers don't like it, nothing wasted. You do the next one. So I said you just redefined product management. You redefined how you find the features of your product. And it's all in the data. It's all in the data. So what I'm trying to say is you can rethink your strategic layer. You can rethink how you develop propositions or solutions. Also with my son, I did an exercise. Could you create an autonomous company? You have an autonomous car, but you can create an autonomous company. If the car, you can optimize its routes, you can optimize its financing, etc. And then I was talking to a friend of mine who runs a trading company in Oud. He says, already doing it. I'm running a company, and he's one of the richest persons in the Netherlands. I'm running a company with 30 PhDs.
Should I be scared or excited?
You should be excited first, but you should always be mindful. And actually, I read a great article in Economist by Nanda Nelekani, by the way, who endorsed my book. You can, because it's amazing what you've done in India. There, Udar and UPI, there's nothing like that in the world. It's a secure digital infrastructure at super scale. And he basically suggested we do the same with AI. We create an environment for secure, trusted AI available to anybody. So the little farmer here in the backwaters, knows about the weather, knows about the market, knows about fertilizer. And I think if you can do that, I would be hugely optimistic. If you just let the big tech companies run away with it, but it's in your control. I think if there's a person in the world that could do this, it's Nanda. And if there's a country in the world that could embrace this, it's India. So yeah, I'm optimistic, but you have to set the guardrails. And without guardrails, all bets are off.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience to the panel? Please.
I'm sure you do.
So, Mr. Tas, as you had predicted, no one can say how the world looks like after 5 years. But still, I've got a question to all the panelists over here. I'm an HR person. So being an HR guy, I'm just a bit more a people-oriented guy. So I'm just asking you a quick question. How do you see AI blending into a labor-intensive economy like India or China, or where your population is high and you have more of a labor-intensive economy going on in the long run?
I think it's a super tool that you have to learn to use. If you look at the speed at which manufacturing was adopted in certain economies, it all had to do with how quickly people could understand it, were educated in it, where the capital flowed there. So I think with this, again, I cannot predict it, but I know one thing for certain. You have to fully embrace it. And, if you're an IT services company, there's no way around it. I think I remember way back, we were talking about AI, we're talking healthcare. I do a lot of work in healthcare. And radiology was the first area where people started using AI because they're all tech-savvy doctors. And then somebody said, AI is not going to replace radiologists. It's only going to replace radiologists that don't use AI. With other words, these can be super powerful tools, as I said, even for the farmer here with a little plot of land that, it is a generic general purpose. And by the way, you shouldn't call it AR because we're not resources. We're humans, for sure, but we're not a resource. So all of us are people, humans with capabilities and expertise. And I find human resources a derogatory term, to be honest.
Unfortunately, that's how the world calls us. So
Yeah,
we're
but
forced to.
you start by calling
split.
yourself, you know, in all these companies, they now call it people or
People, yeah, you've
talent
got a lot
or
of
whatever,
new terminologies coined,
but
to
not
the-
resources.
Yes, of course, you've got new terminologies which are there.
Because
coined.
otherwise it's, shall I use capital resources or human resources? Oh, maybe capital resource have a higher ROI, and then you're on the wrong track.
You're right. But as you rightly mentioned, we have new terminologies which is being coined to address our department, and hopefully we'll freeze on something which is more pleasant to
I
hear.
have a question for the room. Okay, who doesn't use Gen AI? You see, everybody uses Gen AI, so it's already accepted. I think we all need to understand where the limits are, when the hallucinations start, where the biases come in. So you rightly talk about guardrails, and as an organization, you can, again, that may be one of your moral values. We always do this stuff, but it has to be trusted, and we understand that we have to put guardrails on it, and we want to do it for good, etc.
Vishal, on that note, let me come back to you. How does your team accepting or handling this kind of disruption at Alshaya?
So disruption, I think it's a human psychology. So whenever any change comes, any disruption comes, it's always start with the fear, like why we need to do this, and then there is always a pushback. Why we need this? We are already doing good. Whether, for example, this year we moved our CMS from Drupal to AXP, then there were a lot of questions because we were comfortable. And then slowly and gradually, if leadership gets involved, and then they keep clarifying what value they are going to get, because the most important thing is, if you are not telling people what value they will be getting, what it's in it for them, then people are not going to accept. So it will start with the fear, exploration. So when they start seeing the value, then they'll start exploring it. When they start exploring it, then they will understand what benefit they are going to get. And this is how people start accepting the disruption, whether you talk about technology or the process change. Recently, like we onboarded certain brands in our organization where the entire inventory, the way we manage the inventory was completely changed. For example, in one of the brands, so far, our store manager has the liberty, like if they are unable to sell, they can send it back to the warehouse. And in the latest brand, now store manager has to take a decision. Like they can't send it back to the warehouse. If item has reached to the store, I mean, whatever the discount, whatever they want to do, they have to sell it. If they are not selling it, then it is occupying their storage. And if it is occupying their storage, they will not be able to replenish the other items. So this is how people are accepting the challenge. And I think the leadership has a big role into it. To disruption is understanding people, their fear, their challenges, addressing all those things, and making them understand like what is the value for them. For example, like I have developers, and if I start making them understand what my store manager or store staff is facing a challenges, or vice versa. For example, in development team or in corporate team, we have a liberty of 5 days week, and we have a liberty of hybrid working, but our store staff doesn't have that liberty. But if you're not making them understand why it is important for them to come for 6 days, they don't have hybrid working, although we both are employee of the same company. So until unless people don't understand the value for them, they will not get into the change. So this is how by conveying the value, by conveying the importance, we try how people are going to adopt it.
It's all about communicating. Right.
It's all about communicating and communicating onto the value part and then addressing their fears. I think that's the most important thing.
I think communication is not enough. You have to experience it. So you have to see and live the value.
Yes.
Any other questions from the audience? Should,
Hi, Jeroen. Congrats on the book launch. So it's a hypothetical question. When you started Mphasis, the tech landscape was completely different. If you were to start it today, how differently will you look at it?
I think it's a good question. I had a couple of sessions in Chennai, and they were organized by a good friend of mine, Gopi, who used to be the CEO of Latent View, took them IPO, but I know him from my Philips days, and we just had this discussion, and I said, well, the biggest impact on AI is not, how you improve your processes, etc., but really how you weave it into the fabric of your organization, and that's a top leadership discussion. It's not something you delegate to the CIO or your chief digital officer. And so I felt if I would do it again, I would start there and then work my way down instead of the other way around. Start at the bottom and go up.
I saw one more hand. Yeah.
Yeah. Just a question to either Vishal or Jeroen. In today's world, right, everything is changing so fast, right? The pace of technology, the AI wave, using the word wave just to catch on to what Jeroen said. So in your opinion, what is the single most important quality that a leader needs to have to thrive in today's ever-evolving landscape?
Well, I don't think there's one, but I always believe there's one that stands out as being absolutely necessary, and that's curiosity. An endless interest in understanding what it is, what it could be, understanding the context. And I would say the other one is the humanity, because technology is not human, even though some people believe AI will develop consciousness. I generally don't want to believe that. But we are humans, and as humans, we relate to each other. We have emotional connections. And as a leader, I think that's super, super important. So if you don't have empathy and you don't understand how to deeply relate to the humans that you gather around you and that you co-create and co-shape and co-sense with, I think you're missing probably one of the most important things in life and in business.
Thanks. Yeah, that's a very interesting perspective.
Vishal, do you want to add anything to that?
I think I'm just echoing with the thought of Zoran onto the empathy part, and we are talking about AI, everything. Just taking one point, humans are not resource, because it's a industrial era thinking where we are coming with this 4M, like material, man, machine, material, man, money, and machine, manpower. So we are thinking like people are resource, people are not resource. People are the source of potential. It is up to the environment, up to the leadership, what comfort they are giving, what trust they are having in their people, and then people can do the amazing job. There will be things will be done by the AI, but definitely human will always be there to manage things, to oversee things. And I think I'll just address the previous question also, that in labor intensive job, our roles will be evolving. The things will be evolving. For example, previously many people said that quick commerce has kill the kirana stores, but at the same time it is generating the gig economy. So I believe, as Jeroen is saying, like we don't know what is going to be in next 5 years, but we will be there, and we'll be there only with the empathy, and we'll be there with like understanding humans are humans, and as a leader, like allowing people to take risk, and if something goes wrong, then supporting them.
Now, in the interest of time, I will wrap up with one question to Rak.
That's very risky.
Now, you've been with QBurst for 7 months. How does this new paradigm apply in the transformation journey we are going through? This paradigm.
So I think, I was listening to you talking about the book and some of the themes, right? The 5 major changes and so on. As reflecting on our own journey, and a couple of things really stand out, right? And there are a lot of QBurst leaders here who've been part of that transformation journey. So I speak on behalf of all of them. You talked about the existential, the strategic, and the operating, right? the why, the what, and the how. And I think we at QBurst in the last 7 months have actually traversed that journey to a large extent, right? But more importantly, we did take some time, and I took some time, and I'm still learning, but I took some time to understand what are those slow layers and what are the fast layers. And let me just sort of elaborate on that. One of the things we did as an exercise or as a communication was 3 things in QBurst which are not going to change as part of this transformation, which I would say is probably the slow layers in a sense, and 3 things that will change. And the 3 things which are not going to change, and we don't want it to change, and that defines what QBurst is our team culture, the collaborative team culture that we have, is our love for technology, which defines us and which differentiates us, and our client centricity, which allows us to grow, right? And the things which make us, which will change in some ways, is our go-to-market orientation, our performance mindset and ethos, right? And the pace of change that we are used to. So those are the 3 things. So we sort of took some time to understand the essence. And then why we are here, we obviously got a lot of inputs from consultants and our own reflections and workshops on the strategy part. And you talked about those different segments, right, from direction to values to incentives and so on. And I think we have worked on a lot of it. All I would say now to conclude, because that's where I said it's risky, because you said last question and I'm continuing. And I think we are sort of phasing down on the transformation phase. And I think the only add I would have, a slightly different take on the layers of change, is while there is fast and slow contemporaneously, which is how you have defined it, I think there is also fast and slow contiguously. So we did a lot of change in the last few months. And now we are saying, look, I think this is the stabilization period. Let's center ourselves. Let's take a beat. Let's make sure everybody sort of settles down as we move into the growth phase.
Thank you. It's amazing how you came back to the existential layer, the way where we started. Please give it up for the amazing panel. That's all the time we have. Thank you, Arun, Vishal, Rak.